My dad always preached that you got to raise your wife from childhood. I, like a gullible fool, actually believed the old geyser. So, I ended up being besties with the professional crybaby next door for 18 long years. The day the college entrance exams finished, the school's resident pretty boy held a bouquet of roses to confess his love to her. Everyone turned their heads to look at me, their eyes brimming with pure Chardin, waiting to see the premium S of the century get verbally gunned down on the spot. But she didn't even spare the hot boy a single glance. Instead, she frowned and barked at me. "Caspian, let's go home. I'm starving." I was dumbfounded. The hot boy was dumbfounded. The entire school was dumbfounded. She dragged me away while shaking my arm. "Did you hear me? I want to eat your sweet and sour ribs." I pondered internally. Or maybe today we should switch the recipe to pure sour vinegar ribs. My dad is an absolute troll of an old man. He said, "You have to raise your wife from childhood, otherwise you'll end up single for life just like him." I believed his ghostly nonsense. So, I was friends with the crybaby next door for over a dozen years, acting as her personal punching bag and loyal servant. The day the college entrance exams finished, the school hot boy held a bouquet of roses to confess to her. Everyone turned their heads to look at me, their eyes full of pure Schadenfreude, waiting to see the ultimate S of the century get gunned down on the spot. But she didn't even spare the hot boy a single glance. She just frowned and barked at me. "Caspian, let's go home. I'm starving." I looked at her matter-of-fact expression, then looked at the bouquet in the hot boy's hands, pondering internally. Maybe today we should switch the menu to sour vinegar ribs. The bell signaling the end of the exams acted like a shot of adrenaline overdosing the entire school. The campus, which had been dead silent for 3 years, suddenly turned into a chaotic fish market. Books, exam papers, and revision materials rained down from the windows like confetti, accompanied by wolf howls that had been suppressed for ages. To the internet cafe, a 5-seat party. Tonight, we don't go home until we're wasted. My name is Caspian. At this moment, I was being squeezed by the crowd like a sad little sardine in a can. I didn't have any grand ambitions after graduation. I just wanted to rush home, play 2 rounds of games, and sleep like a log. But my childhood friend right beside me, Alara, clearly didn't share my sentiment. She tugged at the corner of my shirt, her brows slightly furrowed like a wronged little kitten. "Caspian, I'm thirsty." I let out a heavy sigh, fished out a water bottle from my backpack, unscrewed the cap, and handed it to her. "Here you go, Your Highness. Please drink slowly." She took small, delicate sips, her big, round, watery eyes still darting around as if she was searching for something. The gazes of quite a few schoolboys around us were glued to her. Then those same gazes, laced with disdain and dissatisfaction, scraped across my face like daggers. I was used to it. There was nothing I could do. Who told to have a face that could topple empires? Her youth exuded a natural, innocent charm with skin as pale as milk. Standing there, she was the literal bright moonlight that no boy in school could ignore. As for me, I was just the dark storm cloud in charge of running errands for that bright moonlight. "Caspian, I'm hungry." She started whining again. "Wait, let me see if there are any pastries in my bag." Out of pure muscle memory, I dug into another pocket and pulled out her favorite strawberry mousse cake. "Caspian, the sun is too bright." "Yes, my ancestor." "Here is the umbrella." I resigned to my fate and popped open the parasol, shielding her from those negligible UV rays. The way we treated each other hadn't changed since the days we wore split-crotch toddler pants. Blame it on my utterly unreliable father, Arthur. He once pointed at Era, who was wailing like a siren next to us, and said to me with a dead serious face, "Son, look here. This is your future wife. You got to start grooming her from a young age. Otherwise, when she grows up, she'll get eaten by pigs." I believed his demonic lies. And so, when cried, I coaxed her. When was hungry, I fed her. When was bullied, I threw hands for her. I had been her free-of-charge nanny and personal bodyguard for over 15 years. The result was in the eyes of every teacher and student in the school. I had become the living synonym for AS, and not just NES, but the textbook definition of one who licks till the end and gets absolutely nothing. I was such a classic example that quite a few people even placed bets, betting on exactly when I would get kicked to the curb by Era. I originally thought this fateful day would at least wait until college. I didn't expect it to arrive so soon. The crowd suddenly buzzed with excitement, automatically parting to create a clear path. I saw the school's mega celebrity. The resident heartthrob Julian Vance holding a massive blazing red bouquet of roses walking straight towards us. He was handsome, radiant. Rumor had it his family was loaded. He played basketball amazingly well and was the dream boy of countless teenage girls. Naturally, that included Era beside me. At least that's what the school forum gossiped about. Game over. My heart did a little backflip. This posture, he's planning a public execution-style confession, huh? I instinctively glanced at only to find her face completely devoid of expression. She just slowed down her water-drinking motion. But the surrounding chatter had already spiraled out of control. Holy macaroni. Is he doing it for real? Confessing right after graduation, Julian Vance is built different. What a legend. Stealing the girl right in front of Caspian. This is a public execution. Plain and simple. Guys, look at Caspian's face. It's practically turning green. The premium cabbage he raised for 3 years is about to get chomped by a premium pig. Every single gaze hit me like a high-beam headlight overflowing with sympathy, mockery, and the sheer excitement of drama-hungry spectators. I felt my toes already starting a construction project, aiming to dig out a 3-bedroom, 1-living-room apartment right here in the school plaza. Good grief, did I forget to check the horoscopes before leaving the house today? Julian Vance stood about 3 m away from me. He didn't even bother to look me in the eye. It was as if I was just a patch of air. He gazed at Era with absolute devotion. His voice neither too loud nor too soft, just loud enough for everyone around to hear perfectly. Era, the college entrance exams are finally over. I can finally say the words I've hidden in my heart for 3 years. I like you. Please be my girlfriend. The roses were presented right in front of Era. The air seemed to freeze. Everyone held their breath, awaiting Era's response. Of course, even more people were using their peripheral vision to admire the glorious moment I was about to get shot down by the girl of my dreams. I even heard someone whispering a countdown. 3, 2, 1. I took a deep breath, mentally prepared to pack my bags and flee the country overnight to escape this absolute cringe fest. But's next move turned everyone into stone statues. She didn't even spare a glance at Julian Vance or that bouquet of roses heavy enough to bludgeon someone. She just looked up at me with those clear, innocent eyes, her frown deepening. Then, under the watchful eyes of the entire faculty and student body, she used a tone that sounded like it was the most natural thing in the universe, mixed with a hint of grievance, and shouted at me, "Caspian, let's go home. I'm starving." The world went silent for 3 seconds. A deadly, awkward silence. Everyone's expressions froze on their faces like a bunch of mannequins whose pause button had been smashed. The mockers, the drama watchers, the glowers, at this moment, all morphed into one single expression, dumbfounded. A giant bold capitalized dumb phone with an exclamation mark. Julian Vance held his rose bouquet midair, the sincere smile on his face, not yet having the time to retract, making him look incredibly ridiculous and comical. The corner of his mouth twitched as if he wanted to confirm whether he was hallucinating. All totally ignored him. She just tugged at my shirt and shook it. "Caspian, did you hear me? I'm starving. I want to eat your sweet and sour ribs. Make it with extra sugar and less vinegar." Her voice wasn't loud. It was soft and childish, but it echoed like a thunderclap bombarding everyone's eardrums. I could feel the high beam gazes around me instantly switch from pity the fool mode to what in the Matrix is going on mode. In my heart, a stampede of 10,000 alpacas was running wild. Are you kidding me right now? In a situation where everyone is watching, your way of rejecting the school's hot boy is to summon me home to be your personal chef. How is that any different from publicly announcing to the crowd that I am your exclusive nanny? What else could it be? The scene of my execution just upgraded from abandoned S to a certified full-time S with benefits. Looking at flawless, pure face, I seriously suspected she was taking revenge on me because I couldn't buy her that limited edition strawberry cake this morning. What a woman with a heart as petty as a pixel. I cleared my throat, trying to break an atmosphere so awkward you could use it to dig to the center of the earth. I decided to strike first to salvage whatever was left of my dignity. Era, haven't you messed around enough? Don't you see the top scholar Julian is confessing to you? What do you mean go home and eat? You're not giving anyone face here. As I spoke, I kept winking at her frantically, meaning hurry up and resolve this mess. Agree or reject? Just do it. Don't drag me into this. Who would have thought completely missed my signal? Instead, she got even more upset, pouting her lips, her eyes turning red in an instant. "Hey, Caspian, What do you mean by that? You don't want to cook for me anymore? Do you hate me? Are you annoyed with me? Oh, no. Not this move again. The ultimate teary-eyed technique. She was way too proficient at this. From childhood to adulthood, as long as she busted out this face, I had never ever won. The surrounding crowd had already started whispering and gossiping. What kind of magical plot twist is this? The school beauty rejects the hot boy just to go home and eat, and it's specifically for Caspian to go home and cook for her. Why do I feel like this is way too much information to process? Could it be that Caspian isn't AS, but the actual main character? Nonsense. Have you ever seen a main character who looks like Caspian? At best, he's just her royal chef. Listening to them made my head throb. But the person whose head throbbed the most was obviously Julian Vance. His face had shifted from red to purple and from purple to pitch black. It was like opening a humiliation factory. Being ignored in public made him lose more face than being rejected outright. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He threw the unlucky bouquet of roses to a lackey beside him, shoved it into his hands, stepped forward, and glared fiercely at me. Caspian, is it? His voice carried suppressed seething anger. You're feeling pretty smug, aren't you? I threw my hands up, looking perfectly innocent. Smug about what? No, I'm literally just a cook. Drop the act. Julian snarled. What the heck do you think you are? A broke loser. A trailing dog. What right do you have to stand next to Era? Is your monthly living allowance even $50? What can you possibly give her to make her happy? Look at you. Here it comes. Here it comes. The classic villain monologue. Nothing but trying to crush people with money. I couldn't even be bothered with him. I pulled ready to leave. Let's go. Let's go. Time to go home and eat. Don't stoop to a fool's level. You stop right there. Julian Vance was completely triggered. He grabbed my shoulder with one hand. Let me make this clear to you today. Stay away from a guy like you doesn't deserve her. I can give her the best life. Designer bags, luxury cars, and you can only cook her a cheap bowl of ribs. The more he spoke, the more agitated he got. Spit literally flying into my face. I advise you to wake up. Era, don't be fooled by this broke loser. Stay with me. I promise you. His sentence was cut short. Because Alara, the girl who in my mind only knew how to cry and act spoiled, did something that made everyone's eyeballs pop out of their sockets. She let go of my shirt, walked silently right up to Julian Vance, then raised her hand, and smacked a resounding crisp slap-a-code through the air of the school plaza. The world fell silent once again. If people were dumbfounded before, now they were completely petrified. Even my jaw almost dropped to the floor. Is this still the I know she knows how to hit people? And she just slapped the school hot boy. Julian Vance held his face, utterly stunned. He stared at Era in disbelief, his eyes filled with humiliation and shock. You hit me. Era shook her slightly re-ained hand. The soft, adorable look on her face had vanished without a trace, replaced by an icy, indifferent aura that I had never seen before. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried an oppressive weight that allowed no questioning. His name is Caspian. He is not a broke loser. Secondly, the sweet and sour ribs he makes are a delicacy that someone like you couldn't afford to eat in a lifetime. Thirdly, and this is the most important point, she paused for a moment, turned her head to give me a deep look, then turned back to Julian Vance, articulating every single word clearly, not to mention you. Even if your grandfather came here, he wouldn't have the right to point fingers at my boyfriend. Boyfriend? I felt like my brain had just been hit by a nuclear bomb. Complete blankness. What the fluff? Since when did I become her boyfriend? Did I, the ultimate simp, unknowingly get promoted to official status? If Era's slap was a thunderbolt from a clear sky, then her final my boyfriend drop was a super earthquake triggering a Category 18 tsunami. The entire plaza, without a single exception, turned into stone statues in the wind. Those classmates who were originally ready to watch me become a joke now had their jaws hanging wide open, their expressions more spectacular than seeing a ghost. Pupils shaking, cognitive functions halted, their worldview crumbling down. Did I hear that right? The school beauty just said Caspian is her boyfriend. Holy smokes, this plot twist almost broke my spine. Fake news. This has to be an April Fool's joke. Today isn't April 1st, so the simp we've been mocking for 3 years is actually the hidden final boss. We are the real clowns. And the other center of the drama, Julian Vance, had completely short-circuited. He clutched his burning cheek, his eyes glazed over, mouth agape, clearly not recovered from the double whammy of getting slapped and getting rejected. He looked at me with eyes full of venomous resentment and profound disbelief, as if asking, why? Why did this broke loser get the goddess's favor? Honestly, I wanted to know why, too. I looked down at myself wearing bargain bin clothes that didn't even cost $30 in total, then looked up at the radiant opposite me. The two of us standing together. The visual contrast was like a food delivery guy accidentally wandering onto the set of a billionaire CEO Loves Me movie. I gently tugged sleeve and asked in a low voice, "Hey, did you take the wrong meds? What nonsense are you spouting? Since when did I become your boyfriend?" Ala turned her head and glared at me, her eyes clearly spelling out, "Shut your mouth." Then she reverted back to her Ice Queen persona, issuing an ultimatum to the still-frozen Julian Vance. Apologize to him. Julian Vance looked like he didn't hear correctly. Apologize to my boyfriend. Aller's tone allowed zero defiance for every word you just said. Ha ha. Julie's advance suddenly burst into manic laughter. His laughter was filled with insanity and unwillingness. You want me to apologize to him? Era, are you out of your mind? What the heck is he? What can he possibly give you? He pointed at me, screaming uncontrollably. My dad is on the board of directors for Vance Enterprises. Our family has tens of millions in assets. I drive a BMW. And you want me to apologize to this loser who can't even afford an electric scooter? Do you believe that with just one word from me, I can make it so his entire family can't survive in this city? Oh, great. He's showing his true colors now. Confession failed, directly skipping to issuing threats. The surrounding students fearfully backed away, terrified of getting caught in the crossfire. I frowned and pulled Era behind my back. Although I had no idea what got into this girl today, I couldn't just let a girl be pointed at and threatened by some guy like this. I'll handle this, Julian. If you have a problem, come at me. Don't make things difficult for a girl, I said coldly. Playing the hero to save the beauty, huh? Seeing me step up, Julian sneered even more contemptuously. Caspian, what are you going to save her with? With those hands that only know how to cook. Let me tell you, neither of you are leaving here today. If you don't give me an explanation, this isn't over. As he spoke, the lackey following him also surrounded us. Each of them looking fierce, looking like they were ready to throw punches. The atmosphere instantly tensed to the breaking point. I calculated in my head if a real fight breaks out, what are the odds of me protecting Era and breaking through the encirclement? I might be skinny, but I've got plenty of fighting experience. After all, growing up to protect this little crybaby, I've gotten into my fair share of brawls, but was even calmer than me. She peeked her head out from behind me, looking at the frantic Julian Vance. There wasn't an ounce of fear in her eyes. On the contrary, it was full of pity. Yes, exactly. Pity. Like looking at an ignorant yet hilariously dancing clown. She pulled out her phone, slowly dialing a number. The call connected quickly. She even put it on speaker. Uncle Sterling. Yes. From the other end came the voice of a middle-aged man. Steady and extremely respectful. Eldest miss, what are your orders? Uncle Sterling, help me look up a company called Vance Enterprises. They deal in construction materials and hardware. Era's voice was as calm as if she was saying, the weather is nice today. Hearing the words Vance Enterprises, Julian Vance froze for a second. Then he sneered. What? Trying to find someone to investigate my family's assets. Too late. Let me tell you our Vance Enterprises. Before he could finish bragging, Uncle Sterling on the other end had already replied. The efficiencies was terrifyingly fast. Elism, I found it. Vance Enterprises' market value is approximately $12 million. Debt ratio is 60%. Their main partner is Zenith Real Estate, which belongs to our conglomerate. Every year about 70% of their orders come from us. Oh, right. Their chairman, Bartholomew Vance, wanted to schedule a meeting with your father last week. It was rejected by the secretary's office. Era gave a small HM and said casually, got it. Then she hung up the phone, put the phone back in her pocket, and looked up at Julian Vance. The arrogance on Julian Vance's face had been completely replaced by terror and disbelief. Zenith Real Estate. That was the absolute top-tier real estate enterprise, the biggest in the city. If they stomped their feet, the city's economy would tremble 3 times. A colossal existence that his dad dreamed of currying favor with, and she's Zenith Real Estate belonged to her family. Julian's voice cracked. Era didn't answer his unspoken question. Instead, she calmly stated a fact. From this moment on, Zenith Real Estate and all its subsidiaries will permanently terminate all cooperation with Vance Enterprises. She looked at Julian's pale sheet face, her voice remaining cold, adding, "Your dad's company seems to have quite a bit of dirty laundry regarding tax evasion. I will have our legal department follow up on this." Julian Vance, just now you said you wanted to make it so my family couldn't survive in this city. All curled her lips into a mocking smirk. Now I am giving you a chance. You and your father before 9 a.m. tomorrow. Get the heck out of this city. Otherwise, bear the consequences yourselves. After saying that, she didn't look at Julian Vance again. She took my hands once more. Caspian, let's go home. This time, no one dared to block our way. The crowd automatically parted for us like Moses parting the Red Sea. Everyone's eyes were fixed on us. But this time, it was no longer mockery and sympathy. It was all fear and extreme curiosity. I was being held by Era, moving forward mechanically like a wooden puppet. My brain was still spinning rapidly. Zenith Real Estate Vance Enterprises' eldest miss. I looked down at the little girl beside me who was shorter than my shoulders. The crybaby I had raised for over a decade turned out to be a superpowered final boss. On the way home, neither nor I said a word. The atmosphere was so bizarrely tense you could wring water out of it. I was pedaling my beat-up bicycle where everything rattled except the bell. Belara sat side saddle on the back, expertly clutching the hem of my shirt. This exact scene had played out every single day for the past dozen years. But today, I felt like the person sitting behind me wasn't my childhood friend, but Godzilla wearing a lowly skin suit. I kept my back ramrod straight. I pedaled really fast, terrified that if this eldest miss got unhappy, she would make me and my bike disappear from this city entirely. Everything that happened at the school plaza just now kept replaying in my head like a slow-motion movie. Especially Julian Vance's face at the very end. A catastrophic defeat. Looking like he just lost both his parents. Wait, even worse than losing his parents because his dad was probably about to go bankrupt any second now. His lackeys didn't even dare to breathe too loudly, supporting his trembling body as they practically crawled and slithered out of the crowd. And as for me, Caspian, an absolute nobody, a poor student, today actually got to experience the exhilarating thrill of an urban novel's main protagonist. Wait, no, that's not right. I'm not the main protagonist. At best, I'm just the sidekick next to the overpowered boss responsible for hyping her up. Well, clinging to a golden thigh like this is pretty comfortable, actually. Caspian, sitting in the back, suddenly spoke up. It startled me so much I wobbled, the handlebars almost sending us into the roadside flower bed. Ellis miss, what are your orders? I asked, my voice trembling. Ride slower. You're bumping me all over the place. Her voice had returned to that soft, cute tone. It was as if the icy queen from just now, who dictated life and death with domineering aura, was just a figment of my imagination. Yes. I immediately slowed down, slower than a crawling turtle. After a moment of silence, she spoke again. Do you have a lot of questions you want to ask me? I thought to myself, isn't that obvious? My questions are so numerous, I could write an entire encyclopedia of 100,000 whys. For example, doesn't your family live just like mine in this rundown slum area? Isn't your dad a laid-back uncle who spends every day fishing, drinking tea, and reading newspapers? Isn't your mom a housewife addicted to square dancing and fighting for discounted eggs at the supermarket? How in the world did Zenith Real Estate pop out of nowhere? Have you been playing an undercover game with me all these years? Also, this boyfriend-girlfriend relationship of ours, since when was that finalized? How come I didn't know anything about it? Was there an internal memo? I didn't receive any notification. Okay. Did someone forget to CC me? But I didn't dare to ask. I was terrified that if I asked, she would give me a look that said, you know too much. And then a squad of bodyguards built wider than buffaloes would appear out of thin air, crumple me into a ball, stuff me into a shipping container, and drop me into the ocean. So I shook my head and hastily said, no, absolutely not. How would I dare question the eldest Mrs. Affairs? I'm just a humble cook. My mission is to research sweet and sour ribs today. Should I add more sugar or more vinegar? I deliberately emphasized the word vinegar. All sitting behind me let out and chuckled. She reached out and punched my back lightly. The force wasn't strong. It felt like a tickle. Caspian, you're still such a coward. I didn't talk back. Nonsense. How can I not be a coward? One single phone call could bankrupt a multi-million-dollar company. This combat power, even Thanos would have to offer her a cigarette out of respect. Sorry, she suddenly said softly. I was stunned. What are you apologizing to me for? For hiding it from you for so long? It wasn't on purpose. There was a hint of guilt in her voice. My parents said they wanted me to have a normal childhood to make genuine friends. Not people who just value our money. That's why we moved here to live. We've always kept a very low profile to the outside world. Our family situation in the whole school besides the principal. You're the only one who knows. Well, now I know too, I added. She let out a soft hum behind me. So, are you mad? She asked carefully. I sighed, not really mad, but definitely shocked. It feels like the pet cat you've raised for over a decade suddenly opens its mouth one day and tells you, actually, I am an Ultraman from the M78 Nebula. Who wouldn't be panicked? No, I'm not mad. I'm telling the truth. It's just that I haven't fully processed it yet. It feels like I'm dreaming. What about the boyfriend thing? Her voice grew softer like a buzzing mosquito. Are you unhappy about that, too? I stayed silent. How should I answer this question? Saying I'm unhappy makes me look like a pretentious jerk. After all, suddenly bagging such a gorgeous girlfriend who also happens to be a super billionaire. My ancestors' graves must be smoking with good karma. But saying I'm happy feels a bit off, too. This relationship came way too suddenly. I had zero psychological preparation. The two of us just stayed silent all the way home. Our houses were right opposite each other. This was a typical old-style residential complex. I took out my keys and opened the door. Era followed me into my house. This was very normal. For over a decade, she spent more time at my house than her own. My utterly unreliable dad was nowhere to be seen year-round. Basically, it was just me alone in the house. I changed my clothes and went into the kitchen, put on an apron, and started washing vegetables and cutting meat. Era pulled up a small stool, sat at the kitchen door, hugging her knees, and watched me, blinking her big eyes just like a stray cat waiting to be fed. The domineering, bossy female CEO from before had completely vanished without a trace. I felt so uncomfortable being stared at by her. I said, Eldis, could you please stop looking at me like that? I'm under a lot of pressure here. If I accidentally mix up the salt and sugar later, don't blame me. Caspian, what did you just call me? Call you what? You still haven't answered me. What? She pretended not to understand about the boyfriend thing. Her cheeks flushed slightly pink. If you don't want to, then you can go explain it clearly to Julian Vance. Just say I got hotated in the moment and misspoke. Her voice trailed off, getting quieter and quieter. She lowered her head, looking incredibly pitiful. My heart melted. This girl, whether rich or poor, in front of me, seems to forever be that little kid who needs my care. A little crybaby. Habits built over a decade aren't something you can change just by saying so. I blanched the ribs and drained the water. Then I heated the wok, poured in the oil, and tossed the ribs in with a loud sizzle. The savory aroma quickly filled the entire kitchen. As I stir-fried, I subtly probed. So today, if you hadn't said that, were you planning to say yes to Julian Vance? The little head at the kitchen door popped up and shook like a rattled drum. No, absolutely not. I fundamentally do not like him. I raised an eyebrow. Then how do you explain the school forum saying you had a crush on him for 3 years and even gave him water? That was me asking him to bring it to you. You were playing basketball that day and I was too shy to go over. She hurriedly explained, her face turning even redder. A trace of unnamed irritation in my heart instantly dissolved into thin air. So that's how it is. I knew it. How could this little liar's thoughts ever escape my eyes? The ribs in my wok were now fried to a golden brown. I drizzled in some cooking wine, soy sauce, dark soy sauce, then poured in the pre-mixed sweet and sour sauce. The tangy sweet aroma immediately took over the whole house. I put the lid on, turned down the heat to let it simmer slowly, and turned around. I leaned against the kitchen counter, looking at sitting on the small stool under the light. Her face was flushed, and her eyes carried a mix of nervousness and anticipation. I suddenly felt that this girl actually was quite adorable, whether she was the crybaby or the eldest miss. I wiped my hands and walked toward her. Squatting down in front of her, I looked into her eyes and asked very seriously, Era, listen to me carefully. I'm only going to ask this once. What you said today? Did you mean it? Being stared at by me, got a bit flustered, her two hands nervously twisted together, her eyes darting around. She just didn't dare to look me straight in the eye. She stammered for half a day, unable to form a coherent sentence. Her cheeks were already as red as ripe apples. Even her earlobes were dyed a layer of pink. I let out a sigh, thinking to myself, this girl goes toe-to-toe with heaven and earth outside. But why does she turn into a timid little quail the moment she's in front of me? Where did that domineering aura that erased a whole family's business go? All right, fine. I get it. I stood up, preparing to walk back to the stove. If my ribs simmered any longer, they'd burn to a crisp. I meant it. A sudden shout came from behind me, laced with a hint of her crying voice. I froze in my tracks. Turning around, I saw stood up. Her eyes were red, tears welling up like a small puddle. She said, Caspian, everything I said was true. I like you, and it's not just from today. I've liked you for a very, very long time. It was as if she used up all her body's strength to blurt out everything in her heart in one breath. And after she finished speaking, those tears fell like pearls from a broken string. Pitter-patter dropping down. I am most afraid of her crying. It's been like this since we were kids. Whenever she cries, I'm completely defenseless. I hastily walked back, flailing my hands clumsily to wipe her tears. My ancestor, what are you crying for? Did I say no? Your attitude. What did that mean? She sobbed, accusing me. You looked so impatient. You definitely thought I was a liar. Thought I was just toying with you. I wasn't. I was helplessly trying to explain. I was just afraid the ribs would burn. Are the ribs more important or am I more important? She glared at me with those wide red eyes, asking indignantly. This lethal trick question caught me completely off guard. Looking at her small, tear-streaked face, that tiny bit of hesitation and feeling of unreality in my heart finally dissipated completely. What else could I even say? The premium cabbage I raised for over a decade didn't get eaten by pigs. Instead, it learned how to pack itself up and deliver itself right to my mouth. If I still didn't open my mouth now, how would I be any different from a pig? I reached out, gently tapping her adorable little nose. You are more important. You are the most important. I leaned in close to her, lowered my voice, and used a tone that only the two of us could hear, saying, So, could my girlfriend please stop crying now? Your boyfriend is about to die of heartbreak from seeing you like this. Allah's crying abruptly stopped. She stared at me blankly, as if she'd been petrified. Tears still hung on her long eyelashes. It took her a few seconds to process what I had just said. A burst of extreme joy exploded from the depths of her eyes. The flush on her face instantly spread all the way to her neck. She suddenly lunged into my arms, hugging my waist tightly. MHM. She buried her face in my chest, completely silent. So, you agree, a muffled voice, heavy with a nasal tone and unbelievable joy. MHM. I patted her back, finding it a little funny. If I don't agree, are you planning to flood my house? She rubbed against my chest like a spoiled kitten. You're not allowed to regret this. I won't regret it. Pinky promise. You're this old and you still want to do pinky promises? My mouth complained, but I still extended my pinky finger to link with hers. Just as the two of us were acting out this tear-jerking, heartwarming romantic farewell scene, a thick, pungent smell of burning drifted out from the kitchen. Both of us stiffened simultaneously. My ribs! I yelled, dashing toward the stove in one stride and ripping off the lid. A plume of black smoke smacked me right in the face. The ribs at the bottom of the wok had gone from caramelized brown to charcoal black. Game over. Oh, biscuits. It's totally ruined. Alara also leaned in close, looking at this wok of dark matter cuisine. Her expression was a bit complicated. Caspian, don't say anything. Let me have a moment of silence. I clutched my chest, my heart hurting so much I couldn't breathe. These were premium ribs I specially bought for you. $6 a pound. Seeing my heartbroken state, Era let out a puff and laughed. She hugged me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. It's okay. If they're burnt, they're burnt. Let's go out to eat. Going out costs money, I said in frustration. Are you treating or am I treating? I got even more annoyed. This girl had been mooching meals off me since we were kids. Her pockets rarely held more than $10 year-round. "No," she whispered in my ear. "I have money now. I can be your sugar mama." Her warm breath brushed against my earlobe. Ticklish. My heart skipped a beat. Being kept by a wealthy lady. This feeling actually seemed pretty darn good. I cleared my throat, trying hard to maintain the dignity of the head of the household. "Who needs you to keep me? I'm a man. I can support myself and I can support you, too. Even though I'm a bit broke right now, I'm at least a future college student. Later, I can work part-time, find a job. Supporting the two of us should be actually that might be a bit difficult. After all, this eldest misses living standards. I had only witnessed a tiny fraction of today. Fine, fine. You support me. You support me." Seeing my awkwardness, quickly smoothed my feathers. "But today, let me arrange this meal. Consider it a celebration of our first day together." Her big, bright eyes looked at me, brimming with anticipation. I honestly couldn't bring myself to say no. "All right, I'll listen to you." "Yay." She jumped up happily. "Then wait for me a sec. I'm going to make a phone call." Saying that, she ran out to the living room to make a call. I looked at the ruined pot of ribs, wanting to cry, but having no tears. This was probably in my entire culinary career my most disastrous Waterloo. A femme fatale indeed. The ancients were right. All finished her call very quickly. She ran back and told me it was sorted. The car would be downstairs soon. Car? What car? I was stunned. Where are we going to eat that requires a car? Isn't the Lanzhou beef noodle shop next door good enough? No. She shook her head, saying mysteriously, "Today, I'm taking you to a nice place." 10 minutes later, and I stood downstairs. A massive black beast, something I had only ever seen in movies, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, silently pulled up in front of us. That sleek, polished car body under the dim street lights of our old residential complex radiated an aura of extreme expense. Strangers, keep away. The aunties coming home from grocery shopping and the uncles taking a stroll all stopped in their tracks pointing at this car. A man in a black suit stepped out of the vehicle wearing white gloves. The driver respectfully opened the door for Era. "Eldest miss, please get in." Era very naturally prepared to sit inside, then turned her head, realizing I was still standing there like an idiot. "Get in. What are you spacing out for?" I gulped hard. I felt my legs going a bit weak. Wearing an outfit that cost less than $30 in total. Sitting in that thing. What if I ruined their genuine leather seats? Would I have to pay for it? Eventually, I was still dragged into the car by Era into the monster that looked way more expensive than my entire house. The moment the car door closed, all the outside noise was completely sealed off. It was so quiet inside, you could only hear my breathing in Eris. I sat tensely on the plush leather seat. My body stiff as a board. I didn't know where to put my hands. The space inside this car was bigger than my bedroom. Beneath my feet was a thick wool carpet. Stepping on it felt as soft as stepping on clouds. In front of us was a small minibar stocked with several bottles of foreign liquor I couldn't name and crystal clear crystal glasses. What in the world is this? This is a car. This is a freaking mobile palace. Want something to drink? All very naturally pulled out a bottle from the in-car fridge. She handed me an ice-cold bottle of Paria water. I took it, looking at the French text on the bottle, feeling like this thing was probably more expensive than my pot of burnt ribs. I said, "We're just going out for a meal. Do we really need to make such a huge fuss?" I mumbled quietly. "It's the anniversary of our first day together. Of course, we have to make it a bit formal." All winked at me, smiling like a cat that just stole a fish. Looking at her radiant face, the tension in my heart faded quite a bit. Whatever. Since I'm already here, I might as well relax. Just treat it as an early experience of the corrupt lifestyle of the filthy rich. The car drove smoothly. I watched the streetlights quickly receding outside the window, realizing this was definitely not the route to the city center. Where are we going? The Apex Club. I sucked in a breath of cold air. The Apex Club. That was the most high-end restaurant in our city. Also the most mysterious one located at the peak of Cloud Mist Mountain on the outskirts. Rumor has it they only serve exclusive members and the average cost per person is in the 5 figures at least. A peasant like me had only ever seen its name in culinary magazines. "El dismiss. Are you trying to expand this peasant's horizons?" I said sourly. What do you mean, peasant? You're my boyfriend. All pinched my arm in annoyance. Everything of mine is yours, isn't it? That sentence made so much sense. I literally couldn't argue back. I felt like I was being rapidly corrupted by the sugar-coated bullets of capitalism. And what's worse, I was really enjoying it. The car drove straight up the winding mountain road, finally stopping in front of a brilliantly illuminated building. The restaurant was built on the edge of a cliff. 3 sides were massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows, offering a panoramic view of the entire city's nightscape. The waitstaff at the entrance saw our car and immediately rushed over, opening the door with utmost respect. A sharply dressed man, looking like a middle-aged manager, walked briskly toward Era, bowing deeply. "Eldest miss, you have arrived. The observation deck has been prepared for you." All nodded very naturally, hooking her arm through mine. "Let's go." I booked the best spot. I was dragged along by her under the amazed and curious gazes of the staff. Walking into the restaurant, the entire place was extravagantly decorated, yet it maintained an air of elegant sophistication. Melodious piano music flowed into my ears. Every single guest was dressed impeccably, their mannerisms refined. I looked down at my t-shirt and jeans, feeling completely out of place with the vibe here. The manager led us to a semi-open terrace. There was only one dining table here, set with exquisite tableware and flickering candlelight. The edge of the terrace had no railing, but an infinity pool. The water's surface reflected the starry sky. The millions of lights from the houses down the mountain looked like a galaxy. Wah! I couldn't help but let out a gasp of admiration. It's so beautiful here. This place is practically tailor-made for a proposal. Do you like it? Era pulled me down to sit at the table. I like it, I said. Honestly. Must have cost a fortune, huh? Not really, said casually. This restaurant is the 18th birthday present my mom gave me. Okay, pretend I never asked. Poverty has once again limited my imagination. Other people's 18th birthday presents are cakes and flowers. Her birthday present is a top-tier luxury restaurant. The disparity in the world is vividly displayed right at this moment. Very quickly, course after course of exquisite dishes looking like works of art were served. Australian Wagyu beef, French blue lobster, caviar, all high-end ingredients I had only ever seen on TV. I ate very carefully, terrified that my table manners would be too ugly and embarrass her. Seeing me so stiff, kept putting food onto my plate. Eat more. You're too skinny. The food you cook is delicious, but it lacks oil and meat. I smiled bitterly in my heart. Eldest miss, I also want to have meat and fish for every meal, but my wallet doesn't allow it. While we were eating, a commotion came from the next table. I looked up. I saw a greasy, pale-faced guy holding a wine glass going over to hit on a beautiful girl wearing an evening gown. His words seemed a bit harassing. The girl clearly didn't want it, but felt it inconvenient to cause a scene. I frowned, feeling highly disgusted by this behavior of harassing women. All also noticed the situation over there. Her beautiful brows furrowed slightly. Such a buzzkill, she muttered softly. Right at that moment, the greasy guy's eyes accidentally swept over to our side. When he saw, his eyes instantly lit up. He completely ditched the girl in the evening gown, holding his wine glass and walking straight towards us. My heart sank. Oh boy, trouble is here. The greasy guy stood in front of me, completely ignoring my existence. A pair of lyric's eyes unabashedly sizing up. Is this beautiful lady here alone? My name is Barnaby. My family runs an import-export business. Very happy to meet you. He reached out his hand wanting to shake hands with Era. I directly reached out my own hand and gripped his. Hello, I am Caspian. I am her boyfriend, I said with a cold face. I secretly tightened my grip. Barnaby turned pale from the pain trying to pull his hand back, but he realized my hand was like iron pincers, completely impossible to escape. Dang it, who the heck are you? Let go of me, he growled angrily. Who he is none of your business. Allah's icy voice rang out. She put down her knife and fork, used a napkin to wipe her mouth, then looked up at Barnaby. I don't care what your family does now. Get out of my sight immediately. Her voice was very calm, but it carried a threat that sent chills down one's spine. That was an aura that only those who have been in high positions for a long time possess. Barnaby was stunned by her glare. Then he got angry. Little brat, you're quite arrogant, aren't you? Do you know who I am? My dad is Bartholomew. Here in Cloud City, no one dares to speak to me like that. Bartholomew. Era nodded, seeming to recall something. Is that the Bartholomew who a few days ago knelt down and begged my dad, wanting to secure that plot of land in the south of the city? What? Barnaby's face instantly turned uglier than a pig's liver. How do you know that? Because that plot of land is now under my ownership. Ala raised her glass of red wine, swirling it gently. Do you want your dad's company to become the next Vance Enterprises? Barnaby's body visibly trembled. The news of Vance Enterprises collapsing this afternoon had already spread throughout the business circles of Cloud City. Rumor had it they offended a mysterious big shot. With just one sentence, a company worth nearly $1 billion was wiped out. He never dreamed in a million years that this mysterious big shot was actually the harmless-looking young girl sitting right in front of him. Oh dear Lord, who did he just bump into? Cold sweat as big as beans rolled down his forehead. Era only said one word. Scram! Barnaby acted like he had received a royal pardon. Stumbling and crawling, he ran away faster than a rabbit. The entire dining room was dead silent. The other guests around who had been drawn by the commotion here were now all looking at us with eyes full of awe. I quietly let go of my hand, picked up my bottle of Perrier water, and took a sip to calm my nerves. Ah, the taste of money. Too thrilling. Today has been more thrilling than the past 18 years of my life combined. I looked at Era opposite me, who was still calmly cutting her steak. In my heart, I only had one thought. From now on, whoever dares to call me AS, I'll show them what's what. I'm clearly not AS. I am obviously the #1 reserved son-in-law for a mega-wealthy family. This meal was eaten amidst terrifying yet magnificent thrills. On the way home, I sat in the Rolls-Royce, feeling like my entire worldview was being refreshed time and time again, rebuilding my understanding of the lives of the rich. Before, I thought it was just eating a bit better, dressing a bit nicer. Today, I finally learned that the truly wealthy can literally command the world. One sentence can decide an enterprise's survival. A family's life or death. This power commands respect, but also feels a bit alienating. I sneaked a peek at Lara beside me. She leaned against the seat, eyes closed, seemingly a bit tired. The moonlight streamed through the car window onto her face. Her long eyelashes cast a soft shadow, making her look like a delicate, fragile porcelain doll. It was really hard to connect her with the Ice Queen with the sky-high intimidating aura from just now. Which one is the real her anyway? Perhaps various. In front of me, she is the little crybaby who knows how to act spoiled, who cries, and who whines for me to cook. In front of outsiders, she is the eldest miss of the Ala family. I need to protect myself and my family well. Thinking this, my heart suddenly ached a little. All these years, she must have been very tired carrying all this alone. The car stopped at our familiar residential complex. Al and I got out of the car. The driver asked respectfully. Eldest miss. What time should I pick you up tomorrow morning? No need, Uncle Sterling. You go back first. Al waved her hand. I'll go out with Caspian tomorrow. The Rolls-Royce silently departed, leaving me with this familiar worn-out night scene. Everything around returned to its usual quietness. Yellow light spilled from the neighbors' windows. A dog barked a few times downstairs. In the air lingered the faint smell of cooking in everyday life. All of this made feel incredibly grounded and safe. It was as if the extravagant feast at the Apex Club just now was merely a surreal dream. Let's go. Let's head upstairs. I naturally grabbed her hand. Her hand was a bit cold, so I instinctively held it tighter. She didn't pull away. Instead, she took the opportunity to lean half her body weight against me. Caspian, I'm so sleepy. She yawned, her voice lazy. If you're sleepy, go home and sleep early. No, I want to go to your place. Why my place? I'm not cooking. I just want to be there. She was acting shamelessly, and I was powerless against her. I had no choice but to indulge her. We went upstairs and I opened my door. A familiar scent, exclusively mine, hit my nose. I changed into my slippers. Al familiarly took out her pink bunny slippers from the shoe cabinet. After changing, she threw her bag onto the sofa, and her whole body sank into it like a boneless cat. Your house is still the most comfortable, she let out a satisfied sigh. I poured her a glass of water and sat down next to her. Era. She replied lazily. Exactly, how much money does your family have? I still couldn't hold back, asking this most vulgar question. It was also the question I wanted to know the answer to the most. She opened her eyes, thought for a moment, and then answered me very seriously. I don't know either. You don't know? Yeah. My dad never told me the specific numbers. He said, girls don't need to have a concept of money. Just knowing how to spend it is enough. She paused for a second, then added another sentence. He said, our family's money couldn't be spent all in several lifetimes anyway. Holy cow, I blurted out directly. Is this the highest realm of flexing? I felt my heart taking tons of critical damage. So, do your parents know about me? I changed the subject. Of course, nodded matter-of-factly. My parents like you a lot. Like me? I panicked even more. Yeah. She started counting on her fingers. They say you have a good personality, a good temper. You know how to cook. You know how to fight. You know how to take care of people? Handing me over to you puts their minds at ease the most. Wait, I interrupted her. Handing you over to me? What does that mean? Era's face turned red again, her eyes darting away. It means exactly what it sounds like, which is I pressed on. It means, she gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and risked it all. It means my parents and your parents already decided long ago to arrange our marriage from childhood. Boom! Another thunderbolt struck the top of my head. Childhood arranged marriage. What era is this? Why does this feudalistic, outdated custom still exist? I pointed at my nose, feeling my tongue about to go numb. Me and you, childhood arranged marriage? Yes, nodded. Then she hurriedly explained. But don't worry, this was a decision made by our elders. If you don't want to, we can call it off. No, I won't force you. She thought I was scared silly, looking at me with a worried face. I was scared silly, but my shocked expression probably didn't mean what she thought it meant. In my head, there was only one thought. That unreliable old man of mine. Every day he told me I had to catch a wife from childhood. Darn it, he was telling the truth. He wasn't joking with me. He was executing a long brewing plan to raise a son-in-law from scratch. So, my 10+ years of dedicated simp life was actually under my dad's direct supervision executing a groom the son-in-law project. I felt my worldview shattering again, shattering into finer pieces than dumpling filling. This was way too much information. I needed a moment of peace. I supported my forehead, feeling a bit dizzy. So, my dad knows about this, too. Uncle Arthur obviously knows. All said, this was decided by him and my dad years ago when they got drunk and slammed the table at a barbecue stall. My vision went dark just as I thought. I knew it. There's no way that old rascal of mine didn't have a hand in this. He sold me out. Sold me out completely. And I was even foolishly helping him count the money. Are you okay? Seeing my pale face, Alara shook my arm anxiously. I waved my hand, took a deep breath, struggling to digest this earth-shattering news. I'm fine. I just want to give my dad a call to check in on him. I gritted my teeth, and squeezed the last few words through the gaps in my teeth. Alara shrank her neck, not daring to say a word. I took out my phone, found the contact saved as Old Rascal, and hit call. The phone rang for a long time before someone picked up. From the other end came my dad's lazy voice, accompanied by the sound of ocean waves and seagulls. You brat. College exams are over, huh? How did you do? Ah, it doesn't matter. If you get into college, come back here and go fishing with your old man. Your dad won't let you starve anyway. I tried my best to keep my voice sounding calm. Dad, where are you right now? The Maldives. My dad said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Where else would I be? On Uncle Vance's private island, sunbathing and fishing. Your old man worked hard his whole life. Can't I enjoy myself a little? Life is pretty sweet right now. I took a deep breath, forcing the words out through my teeth. When are you coming back? Come back for what? I'm only at peace when I'm not home. The thing between you and Alara, you've known for a long time, haven't you? I finally managed to ask. The other end was silent for a moment. Then my dad let out a booming laugh like a ringing bell. So, the little girl finally confessed to you, huh? Not bad, you brat. Didn't make your old man lose face. You finally managed to bag such a premium cabbage. I was so angry I was speechless. All right. Stop acting like you got a bad deal. My dad's voice was full of smugness. I've already discussed it with your Uncle Vance. Once you two graduate from college, we'll hold the wedding immediately. Oh, and I already negotiated the dowry for you. Is 10% of Zenith Real Estate shares enough? If not, I'll tell him to add a bit more. Listening to my dad's carefree and reckless voice on the other end, I felt my blood pressure skyrocketing. I hung up the phone and tossed it aside. Then I turned my head, looking at her innocent expression. She blinked her big eyes just like a child who knew she did something wrong. What else could I even say? It seemed my life right from the very beginning had been meticulously arranged by these two old rascals. Resistance was futile. I felt that in this lifetime I would never escape from the palm of this little demon. Alara, whatever. I accept my fate. I looked at Alara, let out a sigh, and reached my hand out to her. She obediently scooted closer. I pulled her into my arms, hugging her tightly. Alara, listen to me carefully. From now on, you are not allowed to use the teary eyes trick on me ever again. Also, you are not allowed to hide anything from me. Got it? And one last thing. I paused for a moment, speaking into her ear with a fierce tone. In the future, if you ever dare to let another guy bring water to you in front of me again, I will. You will what? She lifted her small face, asking curiously. I looked down at her. Our distance mere inches apart. Her lips were glossy and glistening. My Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Then I used my actions to answer her question. The moonlight outside the window quietly spilled in, landing on us. She trembled slightly in my arms, then slowly closed her eyes. The kiss was very light, like a feather landing on water. But I knew from this moment on everything between us would be different. Extra chapter Easter egg. The story of Sweet Days with Alara has lasted for 3 years now. Well, legally registered for 3 years. The wedding ceremony was held 2 years ago. My dad and her dad, those two old rascals, insisted on turning the wedding into a textbook model of a corporate alliance. Over 500 guests attended. The wedding cash gifts alone were enough for me to lie flat and eat well into my next life. I also only recently found out that my dad used to be Uncle Vance's assistant. In the business world, everyone knows his title as the Wolf of Wall Street. Yet, growing up, I never got to enjoy a single perk. What a troll. Let's not talk about that anymore. Let's get back to reality. Actually, life hasn't changed much. She is still that crybaby who wakes me up at 3:00 a.m. saying, Caspian, I'm hungry. And I am still the guy who gets up in the middle of the night to cook noodles for her. Caspian, I want to eat sweet and sour ribs. It was 3:15 a.m. I opened my eyes, meeting her big sparkling eyes. Can we do it tomorrow? I want to eat it right now. There are no ribs in the fridge. She went silent for 3 seconds. Her eyes started turning red. You lied to me. I saw you buy them this afternoon. That's for tomorrow's lunch. I want to eat it right now. I looked at her small self-righteous face, flipped the blanket, and got out of bed. Wait there. From behind came her victorious giggle. In the kitchen, I put on my apron and started prepping the ribs. She followed me, dragged her small stool, sat at the kitchen door, hugging her knees, and watched me. Exactly like 18 years ago. Caspian. MHM. Do you know why I love eating the sweet and sour ribs you make so much? Because it's delicious. Because the very first time you made this dish for me was the night my parents had a huge fight. Her voice was soft. I was so sad that day I ran to your house crying. You didn't ask anything. Just went into the kitchen, bustled around for a while, and brought out a plate of pitch black stuff. I remembered that was back in middle school. The first time I tried making sweet and sour ribs by myself, I couldn't control the heat and it burned. You brought that plate of ribs, stood awkwardly in front of me, and said, "Stop crying. I made something yummy for you." She smiled. Actually, the ribs that day tasted terrible, sour, and bitter. But I ate all of it. Why? Because that was the first time someone cooked just for me. She looked at me, her eyes shining bright. From that day on, I decided I was going to cling to you forever. My hand stopped mid-motion. So, you've been clinging to me for over a dozen years. Exactly, she said proudly. And I succeeded. The ribs in the wok started sizzling. The aroma spread. She sniffed the air. Smells so good. 20 minutes later, I brought a plate of piping hot, sweet and sour ribs to the table. She eagerly picked up a piece and popped it into her mouth. MHM. Her eyes lit up. So good. I sat opposite her, watching her eat with her cheeks puffed out like a hamster. Eat slowly. No one is fighting you for it. She swallowed and suddenly asked, Caspian, what do you think we should name our kids in the future? I paused. Why ask this all of a sudden? Just asking. She blinked. I already thought of it. If it's a boy, his name will be Dooley. If it's a girl, her name will be Cider. Dooley Cider. Sugar and vinegar. I felt the corners of my mouth twitching violently. Are you serious? Yeah, it's cute, she argued confidently. Our kids obviously have to be named after the ingredients of sweet and sour ribs. Then you might as well name them Caspian ribs. She tilted her head and thought, actually, seriously considering it. Caspian ribs. That sounds pretty good, too. I face-palmed. Game over. This woman has been infused with sweet and sour ribs down to her very marrow. Outside the window, the moonlight was bright and clear. Inside the room, the faint aroma of ribs lingered. She was still chirping away, coming up with weird names for our future kids, things like Caspian sweet and sour, Caspian pork belly. I looked at her and suddenly chuckled. 18 years ago, who could have guessed that this little crybaby, this girl who loved to weep, would become my wife? Who would have guessed that a plate of burnt, sweet, and sour ribs would tie her to me for a lifetime? What? What are you laughing at? Catching me smiling, she asked. Nothing. I stood up, walked over to her side, bent down, and placed a light kiss on her hair. I just felt that I could make these sweet and sour ribs for you for the rest of my life, and I'd never get tired of it. She looked up, smiling until her eyes curved like crescent moons. Then make it for a lifetime. Oh, here's one more Easter egg. Later on, we actually had kids. Our first was a little girl, and we named her Dooley. When she turned 3, one day, she suddenly ran up to me and asked, Daddy, 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 why is my name Dooley? I squatted down, pointed at who was cooking in the kitchen. Because your mommy loves eating sweet and sour ribs. Oh, then why is my little sister named Cider? Her little sister, Cider, who had just turned 1, was drooling in her crib. I stayed silent for 2 seconds. Because when your mommy named you girls, she had water in her brain. From the kitchen came a furious roar. Caspian, I heard that. Dooley covered her mouth and giggled. I scooped up my daughter and bolted. She chased after us, still holding a spatula in her hand. You stop right there. I held my daughter and ran even faster. Dooley laughed uncontrollably in my arms. Daddy, run faster. Mommy is catching up. Under the sunset, the 3 of us, plus a baby, caused a chaotic, happy ruckus. The old lady next door poked her head out from afar, smiling and shaking her head. This young couple is always so lively. Yeah, it really is very lively. Just the right amount of lively. End of story.